Hello Enchanted Ones, and welcome back. Today, join me as I make over my new botanical book of shadows, inspired by a mysterious find within the Enchanted Woods. But the thing is, Enchanted Ones, as I investigate the mystery of this new find, do I find proof that fairies exist? So sit back, relax, and step into the Enchanted Woods with me. Recently, I have been called into the woods, called to figure out a mystery, and well, this week it is our mission to get to the bottom of it together. Hello Enchanted Ones, and welcome. Today you have joined me in the most mysterious place, and it is my new find within the Enchanted Woods. This place came to me last week when I was exploring, and I found a secret path that I've never actually found before and that I've never seen before, but it stood out to me. I had to explore it because the thing is, I was looking for inspiration because, as you know, I have a new botanical book of shadows, and I asked you to help me come up with ideas to decorate it. And well, a lot of your ideas have led me to this path right now, as you told me to create a little house on the front cover. That's where this place comes in mind, because, as you'll soon see, when I came to this place, it had peculiar mounds all around. And these mounds weren't just tree stumps, which you would just gather. A mound would become, or a moss would grow over a tree stump to become a mound. It was these peculiar, quite large mounds. They were everywhere, and they're not just everywhere in the Enchanted Wood, they're just in this spot. The more I looked, the more they started to look more and more like fairy homes. And today we are going to do some investigating. So let's go on an adventure together. It was not only the strange mounds that caught my attention here, but the life they brought with them, the moss dangling off and carpeting the trees. The silver birch's quirky roots and colour, and the energy here feels so ancient and so calm, and I felt I was in a secret lost place, and that perhaps this very feeling was the feeling of home, the essence of what this place was, the fairies' homes. Just look at this one. You have this so beautiful silver birch here, and in the background, peculiar looking hole, and I think you can envision what I envision there. So we're going to be using some tools today to get to the bottom of this mysterious situation. To investigate further, I brought out my magnifying glass to first hand get a closer look at what textures and plants are growing here. So beautiful.
But also, for a bit of fun, I brought out a large piece of jade I have, and I asked you guys what you thought it was. And well, somebody said it looked like a fairy finder.
This is the fairy door at the moment.
So today, it is my fairy finder 3000.
I love the way the silver birches shine. It's just, how do they get that metallic pigment? It's just beautiful. Nature baffles me. Okay, so this clearly is a tree stump, but it's just beautiful, and I love how it's decorated with the moss and a little baby fern coming up there. Oh, so cute! It's like they decorated their front garden. Also finding it interesting how there's nothing really too much going on the floor, but when we look at the mounds, there's a lot going on there. Lots of different types of moss growing, and so that tells me they're not dry. There's lots going on in there to help everything grow on top. I love the combinations of the different mosses. It's perfect. So we're hiding behind a tree. Can you see anything? Can you?
My logic behind the fairy finder is, as the frequency is green, the colour of life, perhaps when looked through, we will see the hidden world. I then got led off the main path by a trail of moss, and what I found was the most wonderful place of all.
Okay, so I was just exploring a little bit more and I came across the most special place. It's completely covered in moss here. The floor is completely covered, and then the biggest mound is over there. It almost feels like a fairy palace. Can you see it in the distance there? Oh my goodness. It's absolutely amazing, and it's just the mossiest thing you've ever seen in your life. I'm not going to travel over there because I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to interrupt anything. So I'm going to just give it a little bit of a closer look from here instead. I don't know what it is, but it's like I'm getting a very overwhelming feeling. I don't know, I just feel really overwhelmed. It's a good thing, but I don't know, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm finding this place. I just feel so real. It feels so real. And I feel emotional. But it feels so real. It feels so real. And yeah. I can't believe my eyes. Can't believe my eyes are seeing this. I'm sorry, this is so boring, I'm sure, for you, but right. Okay, so I have about a bazillion questions, no answers yet, but I do have inspiration, to say the least. I am shocked, basically, by this place, and it's just got a really beautiful, calming, wonderful energy to it. Almost feels like the fairies have set up their little homes just here, and feels like a model village. If you've ever been to a miniature model village, but with nature and fairy homes. So I'll see you back at home.
I got home, I started to plan my front cover. I cut a piece of paper to the same size as my book and draw my design. My design consisted of all the different aspects of the mysterious den. The mounds in the distance were the silver birch, and the hole I found within the ground in the foreground with a little fairy garden. I also want to somehow recreate a little pool within the tree roots to be a fairy bath. When making my design and making my book, I wanted to make it as easy as possible. So when I completed my design, I ran over it with a pen onto the cover of the book. So this would leave an indent of the different sections, making it easier to judge how big each section was going to be. After that, I also cut out the design section by section so I could size things according to scale. I started with the background of the cover, and in the background I was to have the mounds. So to create this, I used the classic foam. So using the design, I cut and built up the shape of 2 mounds. Next, it was time to work on my silver birch tree, and because I wanted to add detail to this, I used clay. I rolled out a thin piece using the cutout to help me shape it. I also moulded some sweet little mushrooms, as mushrooms on silver birches always remind me of fairies. I then stuck everything down and glued sheets of tissue paper on top of the foam to give it a bumpy, oldie-worldy texture, which I also like to call the levering effect. In front of the mounds and the tree, I wanted to create a little fairy home, just like the one I saw within the woods that transcends into the ground, and this will be intertwined within silver birch roots. The first step in this process was scrunching up more tissue paper, making the shape of the roots. But I somehow wanted to use real birch bark on this later on. After I was happy with my design, I completely covered the front page with more tissue paper, just so I'd have a sturdier structure. And then worked on the back. And for this, I covered it entirely in foam. And then again built up the levering effect, making sure to tuck the tissue paper over and glue underneath. So whilst I waited for this to dry, I decided to venture back outside.
So, I'm waiting for my book to dry, but I'm back here in the fairies place, don't know what to call it yet, and I feel like getting some nature together, but only things that draw themselves out to me, and also things that are away from the fairies' home. I don't want to be interrupting any fairies' day, I don't want to be doing that at all. So let's get binding.
I was just obsessed with the shiny white silver birch, so I found the brightest sticks I could. I also found a small piece of moss, but I couldn't find too much of anything else, so I went about my travels home. And on my way back home, I decided to take a different route, and well, I came across the making of the most beautiful fairy flower that exists, the bluebell, and I even managed to find one blooming away. So I continued my travels home to take a rest, or so I thought. When I got back home, I relaxed for a while and sat in my chair. I was just catching up with friends when I looked down and saw something shiny upon my hand. This beautiful, amazing wing. I was lost for words. It was stunning, and different scenarios were flooding through my head. Was this a sign? What insect was this beautiful wing from? And better yet,
Oh my gosh, what?
was this wing even from an insect? So I immediately bottled up the sacred wing in a small bottle to preserve its beauty forever. And well, of course, I just had to include it into my design. But I was in complete disbelief. I kept pacing and wondering how much of a coincidence this was. So I decided to carry on working on the book. The last thing I did before I finished for the day was to paint the whole book white to make the colour nice and even for painting and covering in nature. But I just couldn't help but realise that this book now had a whole new meaning and feeling behind it. And it was truly magical. A few days later, it was such a beautiful day, so I decided to complete my book outside, and to get into the fairy mood, I dressed up for the occasion. I gathered all of my enchanting colours, and I wanted to make the fairies proud with this one. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the becoming of life to my book's front cover. After I finished painting, I had one more step to do. Stick on the nature, and I prepared this the previous evening. I gathered small little crystals and little fabric fairy wings. I also peeled the branches using a craft knife to help me get the bark of the beautiful silver birch sticks. I also pulled apart a few mini fir cones that might come in handy, and then using this small piece of moss I found, I concocted a colour that was similar, and with this I painted crafting moss. This will mean the colour won't fade, as unfortunately real moss does. So now it was time to stick everything on and transform this cover. And to start, I placed all of my silver birch bark pieces onto the book, and once I was happy, I stuck them on one by one, and I feel this really made the book complete. I then glued moss onto the parts where the silver birches didn't look quite right, but to also give the impression that this book was old and came directly from the forest. I then added final finishing touches here and there to make the book just look a little bit more special. Using my glue gun in between the silver birches, I made a little pool of water, like a watering hole, and within this I placed my extra special bottle containing the wing to hold it forever. And then I completely covered the book in acrylic top coat to make the book completely usable and not fall apart. I waited for this to dry, and well, after it was complete, I think you know where I went. I really hope I have done the book justice, and I love how it looks disguised and emulates this beautiful place, with the fairy homes in the background, the silver birch with the mushrooms growing up, and in the foreground the silver birch roots. I cannot believe how good they turned out to be. Underneath the birch, a mysterious fairy home that invites you in with its stepping stones made of crystals and fir cones, and below this, a simple watering hole where the fairies can bathe, but also contains a secret. Sometimes we can call events that happen a coincidence, but sometimes it's just too much. In this case, I believe I found exactly what I was looking for: proof. But the thing is, Enchanted Ones, this is now so much more than just a book. It tells a story of a girl who found somewhere that held a mystery. And well, now that girl believes that the mystery is solved. But please, do let me know what you think these mysterious mounds and the fallen wing might mean. I'd love to know your thoughts. And I am yet to give my special place a name, so all suggestions are welcome. Thank you so much for watching, Enchanted Ones. All my love Alwyn.
Now I brought my magnifying glass with me so we can look up close at the moss.